It's been almost a year since I got this Yashica T4, and I did not buy this camera. This camera was gifted to me by a viewer. Chris, if you're watching, thank you so much. I was so shocked and surprised that someone would just give someone a Yashica T4, considering how expensive they are. And I thought that coming up on a year of owning this camera, it would be a good opportunity to go over the pros, the cons, how I think you can get the most out of this camera, and the big question, would I spend my hard-earned dollars on a Yashica T4 in 2024? So let's take some photos in this beautiful location and talk through all of those points of the Yashica T4. Flash on and do like a bit of fill flash here. So the obvious pro to the Yashica T4 is the lens, especially for the compact size of this camera. So it's a Carl Zeiss Tessa Red T f 3.5 lens, which is not the fastest in a point and shoot, but it's pretty damn good. So as expected, this is very sharp, especially when you've got enough light. But I have found in my year of owning it that the flash isn't very strong. And because of the f-stop, it does tend to produce quite like an underexposed, not super sharp image if you are shooting indoors or in low light. So that is kind of disappointing and definitely a con to the camera. Obviously, I'm very tempted to compare this to something like my L35 AF, and I will talk about that more later on in terms of pros and cons and comparing cameras and like why you feel drawn to certain cameras. But it's definitely not the sharpest lens, but it's definitely super, super, super sharp coming from something this small when you shoot in conditions like today where it's daylight, you're out and about, you've got a lot of light to help. Oh, it's actually like pretty warm. Thought it would be chilly. Small win that I wanted to share with you guys. If you check out the Kodak professional page, you will see a selection of my images on their Instagram page, which is super, super exciting for a film shooter to be recognized and featured by Kodak. I got that opportunity via our Stories on Film. It was an exhibition that I was part of in Melbourne. So I think that saying yes to things like that and then, you know, them opening doors for you is like really cool. So yeah, definitely go check out my feature on the Kodak page. I forgot to say I have Portra 160 in my camera today. It's definitely my favorite of the Portras. So just gone all out expensive here with my Yashica T4, my roll of Portra. When it comes to size, the Yashica T4 is obviously extremely compact and it's very sleek in its build quality, but I have quite big hands, which I have said on the channel before, and I don't know if everyone's noticed. And I often have like long nails, so the ergonomics of it being quite small can be quite irritating because it's really easy to get your finger in front of the lens without you noticing, because obviously you can't see through the viewfinder. But in saying that, the more you use it, the more you're just really aware of that and you just get used to it. It can be a little bit like slippery, like there's no like grip like there would be on like the Canon ML or even like the L35 where you've got a bit of chunk to hang on to. But then in saying that, this is like extremely portable, which for me is really, really important. And it's something that I will touch on again later on in the video. But I think this camera kind of comes everywhere with me and is sort of like my journal, I guess, because it's so small and it's so easy to fit into like a handbag, or I can just pop it on like a strap and not really notice that it's there because it's light, it's small, it's compact, and I know it's gonna, you know, do the job better than a lot of other small cameras I have. Autofocus is something that really comes into play with point and shoots. Some autofocus are better than others. And I have watched some reviews of the T4 where people have said they've had issues with autofocus. Now, in my situation, I'm not sure if it's down to user error or getting too close, because that's when it does seem to miss focus. But in, low light situations, when I have tried to maybe get a little bit too close, it hasn't really hit focus. The focusing system is basically just holding your finger down on the shutter button like ever so slightly, but it is quite touchy. So it's really easy to then just take the photo. Obviously you then lose a frame, which it can be really annoying. And then if you have an out of focus photo, sometimes that is really annoying as well. So the autofocus sort of overall it's fine, but I have had quite a few missed shots. But I do think, oh my God. I am like getting eaten alive. It's like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. I'm not even a celebrity, but just get me out of here. Autofocus is, you know, ho-hum at times. And for the price of the camera, like you kind of want it to be hitting focus all the time. But yeah, I think with point and shoots, you have to kind of surrender yourself to these things in terms of like, you know, it isn't going to be this amazing focusing experience because it's like a compact camera. So, you know, whatever. I'm done with the great outdoors. Too many mosquito bites, and somebody just walked past and told me that there's a red belly snake like across the path, and I think they're poisonous, even if they're not. I'm done. So we're gonna exit this area, go somewhere else. I did see some sort of suburban scenes before that I thought looked a bit more me, because I can only take so many sort of landscapey type shots until I'm like, I'm done now. But before we move on to the next location, I wanted to touch on the manual controls of the T4. So they are quite minimal, pretty much just you have control over the flash, which I really like because a lot of the time when I am shooting a point and shoot, I do want the flash to go off and I don't want the camera to decide. So it's really good, yeah, if you're indoors and you know there is enough light, sometimes the flash won't go off on a point and shoot. So with this one, you can force it or like set it on auto so it will go off. Something else that I like to do that gives you like a little bit more creativity with a point and shoot is using fill flash, just to give a daytime scene a little bit more pop. I did do it today. I don't know how well it's going to come out, but you will have already seen that. You can just put the little sun emblem on and then it'll fill in the shadows or just give a bit more vibrancy to an image. And I really like having that as an option on a point and shoot because some you don't have any option at all. The con, I suppose, which is with a lot of cameras, and I hear Ali say this a lot when she reviews like different digicams and stuff, when you turn the camera back on, it doesn't remember your settings. So you do have to remember to like actually press that button to get that setting back, which can be annoying. To be honest, most of the time I just leave my cameras on, which I know is really bad because of that reason, and also because I just want to be like ready to get the shot. And then that way I don't forget. But yeah, it is kind of annoying and wish that it just remembered what you wanted it to do. All right, so in pursuit of some more urban scenes for this urban girl, city girl here, and I'm also really hungry. So like I'm hungry, I got bitten, there's a snake, my like shoes are muddy. Oh.
I'm gonna go and try and find the snake to get a bit of video of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just wait in the car. got lots of bangers in the back of that car park, way more than I did when I was looking at the beach. But there's quite a lot of locals kind of staring because it's a pretty small town. So I think we'll move on somewhere else. Now I've got what I wanted. For as long as I can remember, I have always wanted a Yashica T4 or a high-end point and shoot because I really love point and shoots. That's actually how I came to own my Nikon L35 AF. So there's a bit of a story there and a bit of a history for me. So finally getting my hands on one of these, especially being gifted it by a viewer, is a pretty special story. So owning this does kind of feel like I got my white whale, and I kind of do feel like a boss having a Yashica T4, even though I don't really subscribe to that kind of stuff. It just feels really cool to own it. And that does, I guess, make me want to use it more and add to the experience of a camera. This also feels like such an icon in terms of like who has made it famous, who has used it, whether you like those people or not. A lot of skateboarders have owned T4s and, you know, cite them as an influence. So for me, it's a real sort of like pop culture icon. The downside obviously is that then drives the price up, and kind of unfairly really, and unwarrantedly, but it does make me feel really anxious owning something, even though I didn't pay for it, that is this expensive, because I'm worried that at any moment it's going to brick, because obviously it can, it's electronic, I won't be able to fix it. When I have it out, I do worry that I'm going to break it. I will say the build quality is really sleek and I've never had any issues with it at all. I'm probably jinxing myself saying that. And yeah, it's been a year and it's been totally fine. And I cannot say the same for the L35 AF, which is fraught with problems. So from that perspective, it's good, but then also bad because I just feel anxious that it's going to break. I'm going to drop it, something's going to happen to it, or it's going to break. So all in all, the Yashica T4, I probably wouldn't buy one because they are so crazy expensive. I might look into something else if this was to break. But I think it's important to note that the images from my L35 AF, and sometimes even things like my Canon SureShot 76 zoom or other cameras, I actually prefer the results from, especially the L35. I think like the vignetting on that, the flash is so strong, way stronger than the T4, and it just gives this punchy look that you just can't seem to replicate on anything else. And I haven't seen that from the T4. So in terms of actual images, I wouldn't be choosing this. But at the end of the day, I am using this way more than I'm ever using my L35 because of all the build quality issues. It's clunky, it's chunky, it feels like a bit of a drag to use sometimes because of those things. Whereas this is like super compact, easy to have on me, so therefore I am using it all the time. It is never without a roll in it. I always have it as a backup camera as well because again, it's so easy to just pop into a bag, have in the boot, have with me. It's my everyday camera. Like I said, it's my journal and I am just constantly using it. And I think that counts for more than the actual images you get or the specs on a camera or like how much clout it has. It's like, do you use it? And that's kind of the measure of how good a camera is, really, because they're made for you to use. So in saying that, I would love to hear from you guys if you have cameras in your collection that one is maybe technically better than the other, but you are drawn to one because of a particular reason, like I am with this, that's very like personal, or it's just the fact that it's easy to use and pick up and it's just in such high rotation. I would love to know what your equivalent is there in your collection. So comment below and let me know.